Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Prospect Show, The Call Up, with your hosts, Marty Tallman and Cristian Crespo. We have completed the AL East, and we are now moving on to my favorite division, which is the AL Central. And today we're going to start with breaking down the Chicago White Sox. Welcome back, and before we jump into the White Sox, I want to take a moment to introduce our first guest on the Call-Up Show. I'm super excited. This guest not only knows the White Sox organization in and out, but he's also one of the nicest people in the industry, and everyone who hears that will completely agree. He writes for Roto Fanatic at 9-Inning, Know-It-All, Fantrax, SB Streamer. You know him by Mike Carter, the doctor. Mike, welcome, and how you doing today?
Hey, Marty, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on. Cristian, good to meet you finally and be on here too. It's funny, the Triple Play Fantasy intro has come a long way from the first times I did the show back last year. So you guys are doing an awesome job. I love it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and speaking on that, we've had some people now making video stuff, and we're doing tons of different graphics, and Cristian's doing prospect work and articles. Cristian, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Always good, man. Always good. So before we hopped in, we heard your sister accidentally ran out of gas on the way here. So you almost missed it.
Yeah. Let's just forget about that. Let's move past it.
All right. Let's move on to let's dive into the Chicago White Sox farm system. And before we actually break down the top 10 prospects, I want to just get an overall sense of how the organization is doing at the major league level and how that's affecting their farm system and what their plan is for 2022. We're going to start with our guest today, Mike Carter. How are we feeling about the Chicago's organization overall going into 2022?
Well, I think it's been a relatively complicated process for the White Sox to get to where they are right now, right? So, I mean, if we're being honest, Marty, I know you're a Tigers fan, and you might probably not want to hear this, but the White Sox are in win now mode. Mm-hmm. They're a championship ready type of club with a couple of additions. They still look like they're going to be able to do some things here, possibly after this lockout. God only knows how this is all going to come together. But in the last couple of years, their top prospects have all made it to the major league level. So, Luis Robert was obviously the crown jewel of their system, and he's there, and health withstanding is one of the top center fielders in the game. They had Nick Madrigal, who they traded for Craig Kimbrell, and unexpectedly, that didn't really work out for them, and that leaves them with a hole at second base. But they've had Eloy Jimenez, who was not really their guy, was a Cubs guy. Dylan Cease the same way. They highway robbery Jose Quintana for him back 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. So they've really exhausted the top levels of their system now. And last year they had Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets, who both made pretty significant contributions for them. However, it seems like, to me, a team that's in a World Series now mode with the contracts that they have would be looking to make a bigger addition than somebody like Vaughn or Sheets to what they have in the outfield right now. So long story short, they're there to win. The top levels of the system, Cristian, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that, but are relatively bare at this point because those guys are all at the major league level.
Yeah. That's for sure. But I mean, the way that they've been able to graduate their prospects recently, I mean, they're all making impacts at the big league level already. So they've been able to develop them and get them there, which is the ultimate goal. Now it's just about kind of rebuilding, because you can tell they kind of put all the chips in developing those top guys.
Yes.
And then now it's just basically catching up, because then you look at the top of their system, other than Colson Montgomery, who was just drafted, who we're going to talk about soon, a lot of older guys. Like the Jake Burgers and stuff, who's still considered a prospect. I mean, he's a good player, and he's going to, play a role in the big league club this year, still considered a prospect. But that's kind of where they're at right now. Now it's just about
It really feels like what they're doing in the last couple of years is knowing that those top guys are coming up. They've really done a lot of work to try to backfill and get younger at the lower levels, and they really needed to do that. I mean, they had been growing that prospect system for a number of years, and now that those guys have graduated, they went from arguably a top 5 system to probably one of the 5 worst systems in the last couple of years. So,
yeah, I mean, it's I mean, the big league level is paying off for them.
Yeah,
and,
I would say so.
You said, they're looking to compete. You gotta give and take. You can't always have the best of both. Like not everybody's the Rays. So
absolutely. And I was going to say, they are one of those teams that they have graduated their best prospects, and they're doing it the right way. So the cupboards may look bare, from a farm system standpoint, but what that really is just giving them an opportunity to develop the next crop, which they may ultimately sell off or trade off in order to stay competitive and get that World Series. But like you said, I think there is some good talent left in the organization, and we're going to transition that to our number one guy, or Cristian's number one guy, Mr. Colson Montgomery. So young man, 19 years old, shortstop. He's out of the 2021 draft, 22nd overall. In 2021 at rookie ball, which was about 26 games, he slashed 281, 396, 362. I want to start with you, Cristian. Why is Mr. Montgomery your number one man going into 2022?
Well, Colson Montgomery in the draft was actually a very toolsy prospect, both on the offensive side and defensive side. And contrary to his stats from this past season, he's actually known for his power. His power stands out a lot more than his hit tool, even though they're thinking that he can, kind of transition into not more of an average hitter, but he'll be able to hit for some decent average. He just tends to try to pull the ball so much. But his ability to put the bat on the ball, just make the contact that he does, and to be able to drive it as hard as he does, for his size, too, he moves really well for his size. So he should be able to stick at shortstop, depending on, he's 19, still pretty far away. They have Tim Anderson there now. But he'll be at least an average defender, which is good. It'll work out for them. But, yeah, he's just, like I said, very toolsy. And it's the reason why it was a very deep shortstop class. It goes back to that. We've been talking about that throughout this series. But, he stood out, and at his age, he was very developed. So it's going to be fun to watch, follow him.
Yeah, the Sox were really big on him in the draft. I think Cristian's absolutely right. It was a deep class there. They were in on him from the beginning. Of course, I love him because he's an IU guy. That's where I went. And so even though I'm old enough to be his father, clearly, I'm a big fan. But no, I think, a lot of the comparisons that I've seen, Cristian, I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of people in the system and scouts that we've heard from are comparing him to Corey Seager, which obviously would be fantastic if that played out. I'm not sure that Corey Seager's worth the money that he signed for in Texas, but that's a whole other story. But Montgomery does have those tools. He's big. He's 6'4". He's got mobility. Looks like he could stick at shortstop. And the White Sox love these guys, right? Like historically, if you go back 10, 12 years, they love drafting guys that have played in multiple sports. And he was also a basketball star. So he's got a lot of really good athletic ability, like TA, who they have for 2 more years under contract before things start to get a little bit goofy for him. So I'm thinking that they're hopeful that they can develop one of these guys that they've got in the pipeline into a shortstop that could replace Anderson, depending on what kind of money he's asking for at the end of the contract that he's in right now.
Yeah, because Tim Anderson's on a very cheap deal right now. So when that contract's up, if he continues to produce the way he's doing right now, they'll be like, hey, we got Colson, right here, ready to come up.
Right.
So, and that's kind of the time frame that you see. He might be up maybe closer to 2025. You hear 2025, you think it's like 10 years away, but it's actually 3.
It's not. Yeah.
But no, that's like you said, Corey Seager is. It feels like every lefty shortstop that came out of this year's draft is compared to Corey Seager.
Yeah.
They're all big guys with really, really developed hit tools, and it's it's crazy how all these young kids are developing at the pace that they're developing. It's something that, it's very recent. It wasn't always like this. So,
Speaking of big guys and big bats, let's move on to our number 2 guy, Yoelqui Cespedes. So out of Cuba, the 24-year-old outfielder, international signee. They gave him the bucks, man. $2 million for a signing bonus. In 2021, he had over 12 games at high A and double A. He slashed 285, 350 with a 463 slug, 8 home runs, 27 RBIs, 18 stolen bases. Some video game numbers from the young brother. We're gonna start with you, Mike. How are you feeling about him?
Well, he's an interesting guy. I think in Chicago, I think that we were. I guess I shouldn't speak for all fans, but I think that there were people who thought he was going to be coming along a little bit more quickly than what he has, and he does need some more farming, from what it sounds like. I think White Sox fans, this hole in right field that we've had for years is something that they keep hoping that it's going to be filled by someone like Cespedes or. Who's apparently going to be theirs as well. Although that's who knows if it's even official. But the power seems to be very real. Although when he got to double A, he really struggled with the power. His average went up, but he only hit 1 home run. So it's hard to know exactly what he's going to be. That said, the White Sox do have a really good history of developing Cuban players. And so, maybe there's something there. I don't think he's going to be as good as his brother. But I guess time will tell. I think people thought, and Cristian, I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about that. I think people thought that he would be further along in his game at the age that he is than compared to what he really is at this point.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. I mean, he's already 24. And like you said, they signed him with the intention of, developing him into their everyday right fielder, because everything you hear now is that they're looking for that guy to try to fill that role, and they were hoping it was him. The only thing is, a lot of people compare him to his brother, but I don't know. Like, the power obviously isn't the same. He does have really good bat speed, but the bat path tends to get long and it drags in the zone a lot, which is why he's not able to consistently hit the ball as hard as people thought that he would. It's a very aggressive approach as well. So, I feel like he was just trying to fill these lofty expectations that people have for him when they first signed, because when they first signed, they wanted him to be his, I think it's his half brother or something like that.
Yes,
they wanted him to be Yoenis, and he's just not like that. He's a lot quicker than him, very athletic, so he could definitely man the outfield. Like, that's not a question, but it's just that he hasn't been able to, all the tools haven't been able to catch up to each other. They're just kind of like popping up here and there sporadically, and it's just not all meshing as they expected it to.
It's so hard to know how those statistics translate too, right? I mean, you see the guys that are playing in the Serie Nacional and stuff in Cuba, and you're like, wow, these guys are putting up like video game eye-popping numbers. But you never know how that's going to translate to come into the major leagues. I mean, when the White Sox signed Alexei Ramirez many years ago, he was a good ball player, no doubt about it. But people thought he was going to be the second coming, and it didn't really work out that way. Meanwhile, Jose Abreu has been better than advertised, right? I mean, he's just been amazing. He's the heart and soul of that team,
Yeah, he really is. And what I would like, real quick before we move on, do we have an ETA for Cespedes? Cristian, what do you think?
I mean, ETA for him, if it was up to the White Sox, they would have him there opening day. But I don't know. He's still pretty raw at the plate. I'd probably say maybe late this year, depending on their need, if they sign somebody or not. But I'd say, hopefully 2023, especially at 24 years old already. I mean, they've got to push him at this pace. They can't keep leaving him down there. He's got to show that he can do something.
He kind of feels like a quad A guy, right? Like they used to say,
I was just about to say that he's going to be the guy that he's going to be like, and I hate to say it, but it's going to be. I just have a feeling it's going to be like Rusney Castillo, who just found his way to sign a minor league deal the other day. But just, a guy with so many tools. His athleticism just it shows out, but he just
Hmm.
can't put it all together. Like I said, hopefully it's not the case, but I mean, right now with just like the name and everything that went behind it, it's just kind of tough.
Yeah.
Anybody want to bet me a buck that the White Sox sign Yoelqui Cespedes? Try to get him to DH this year? How funny would that be, right?
I honestly think they're going after Conforto. I think that's gonna be their guy.
Boy, I hope so.
Well, let's see what hopefully this guy can contribute this year. Jake Berger, this is Christian's number 3 guy, 25-year-old third baseman out of the 2017 draft. He went 11th overall, so a very high pick. In 2021 at AAA, that was 82 games. He slashed .274, .332 with a .513 slug, 18 home runs, 54 RBIs. He got the call up to the bigs, 15 games at the big leagues, slashed .263. .333, .474. He hit a home run. Let's hear it for him. Mike, I want to start with you. How'd you feel about, first off, what were your expectations of him coming into 2021? And now, after seeing him play at the big league level, what are you thinking for 2022?
Well, I had no expectations for him last year because of the Achilles tendon injuries that he had were just god awful. I mean, the guy just could not get a break. And here's the thing I'll say about Jake Berger. He's probably a better human being than he is a baseball player. I mean, he's just a great guy. He's really big into mental health, which is obviously a huge thing for me too, based on my career. He just started a website for, talking about his own mental health struggles and trying to help other people in the Chicagoland area. So he's a really solid guy. Here's the thing I really like about him. He doesn't do anything really well except hit the ball. He's not a great glove, but I'll tell you what, he really tries hard, and he is currently working out at second base. He's dropped about 15 to 20 pounds since the offseason started, and he's trying to add to his versatility by being able to play second base. Now, I don't know if that's going to work out or not. I know that the team really likes him. He's got a great team first attitude. He filled in really nicely for them in the middle of the season when they were really kind of down with Moncada's leg injuries. Moncada's got and COVID, and Moncada really never recovered. I mean, people give him a lot of shit. He was really banged up, and he plays really hard, and that flies under the radar for him because everything looks so easy for him because it is. But Berger's a really interesting guy. I mean, I think with an opportunity, he could probably hit pretty well. I've often wondered with him if, he might be a guy that is a depth piece on their roster, but he doesn't have a lot of positional flexibility. And I wonder if he would be somebody that if he shows that he's healthy, that they could use in a trade, in a package to try to get somebody to help them try to win now. I don't know how viable that is, but he's a really good dude, and he plays really hard. And so I'm happy that he did that last year for them, but I don't see him having a starting role on this team. I mean, he could be an off the bat bench potentially, but I don't know. I don't see the fit here for him right now.
And that plays into what we were talking about at the top of the show, where this is a win now team. We don't have time for Jake Berger to develop and maybe, hopefully be something, for the season. They need it right now. All right, let's move on to Jose Rodriguez, the number 4th guy on Christian's list here out of the Dominican Republic, 20 years old, shortstop. He was an international signee in 2018. In over 2021, 111 games at A, High A, and Double A. So moving through the system. Slash 301, 338 with a 469 slug, 14 home runs, 51 RBIs, and 30 steals. Christian, he sounds like a fantasy darling. Break down Jose Rodriguez for me.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have one tool that's going to stand out above all the else. It's kind of like average across the board, but he does everything so well, which is why I put him as, the number 4 prospect here. Really quick right-handed swing. He's actually deceptively strong for somebody his size. He's able to hit the ball extremely hard, and it kind of goes with the approach that he has because he's pretty aggressive at the plate. But it's like he's gonna have to try to cut that down just a little bit. But like I said, very, very average across the board. He doesn't do something extremely well. Everything, he plays the game. He's a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody that the reason I have the comp for him that I do is Alcides Escobar.
Hmm.
Alcides Escobar didn't really have any standout tools, but he's an everyday player. He's
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's going to go out there and he's going to bust his tail and he's going to make sure he does everything he can to help the ball club win. And that's kind of how I see Jose Rodriguez kind of filling out at the major league level.
Mike, real quick, how do you feel about him?
I think it's a great summary of what Rodriguez is. I too was surprised by the power for the size that he has. I don't think he's got any one great tool. He's a really good base runner. Good, the speed is good, but he's a really good base runner. They say he's really savvy and has really good instincts. I've heard, and I don't know what you've heard, Cristian, or what you think about that, but that he profiles more at the major league level as a second baseman and not as a shortstop, based on the fact that he's a little. I have no room to talk, but that he's a little bulkier from the waist down.
He's still filling out. I mean, he's not very long,
right?
But kind of like stocky. He's just a bigger kid. As he continues to grow, he's going to grow out of shortstop, and his arm strength isn't incredible, so he won't really be able to move over to third base.
Yes.
And I mean, their plan is to have Moncada there for as long as possible.
With Montgomery playing, probably projecting to be their shortstop, of the future. So him playing second would actually be really beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. It'll fit very well for them in their future plans. So it's somebody that I'm definitely going to be paying attention to, just to kind of see if maybe one of those average tools can develop into something maybe a little above average. Because if he does that, he's definitely going to become a player.
It's interesting, isn't it? They signed him for $50,000. They signed him for nothing. And now they got a guy that's potentially a good prospect.
These are the guys that Vidal Brujan signed for $10K.
Yeah.
And he became a top prospect in baseball.
Altuve too, right? Did he sign for like 15,
all these
20?
Guys, Altuve had to beg the Astros for a contract. And now he's one of the best second base. I mean, it all comes down to development, and that's what makes this part. That's what
makes prospect fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, let's run out the top 5 with Wes Kath. Is it Kath or Kath?
I think it's Kath.
Kath, okay, good. 19-year-old third baseman out of the 2021 draft. He went in the second round, 57th overall. At rookie ball, he slashed 212, 281, 331, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, and a stolen base. Cristian, how do we feel about him?
He's actually somebody that a lot of people are kind of indifferent about, because some people thought that he should have gotten drafted a lot higher than he actually did. But it's because of his profile, specifically on the defensive side. Because as soon as he got drafted, in high school, he was a shortstop. As soon as he got drafted, they moved him over to third base. They knew he wasn't going to profile as a shortstop long term, so they immediately made that change. But he's a consistent hard contact, consistently makes hard contact with the ball from the left side. He has an advanced approach at the plate too, very good eye. He's able to, just spray the ball around all fields. That's why a lot of people thought he was going to go a lot higher, just because of the hit tool that he does have. But I mean, it's somebody that the White Sox, I've heard and read that they envision him to play the left side of the infield. So he's somebody that with Colson Montgomery, they both, at this pace will come up at the same time and kind of be that next wave of White Sox at the major league level. And my comparison for him was kind of like Kyle Seager. Maybe not the same amount of, like earlier Kyle Seager, because Kyle Seager last year he hit 35 bombs as a career high, but he can be 22 to 25 home runs consistently. From the left side in that park, in that division, it'll play very well. But yeah, he's young kid too, 19. So these are the guys that are slowly coming up that they're going to develop, and we'll see how it pans out. It'll determine a lot.
It was interesting because I think what happened was, it was interesting for me was that I had heard a lot of people talking about him being at the end of the first round. And so for the Sox to get him where they did, they felt like that was a bonus. And what we've been told here is that his hit tool is more advanced than anything else that he has. The power, they're not really sure about that developing. But he's a 6'3", 200-pound third baseman who, to your point, is 19. Probably going to fill out. Maybe some of the power will come. There aren't a hell of a lot of left-handed hitting third baseman in the game at this point. So if he's got a chance to stick there, it will be interesting to see how that happens. And it sounded like there were a lot of people that were frightened off by him too, because they thought he was going to go to college, and he ended up taking the Sox money and not doing that.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah, they took advantage of the fact that he fell to them, but they still paid him a little over slot. I mean, they paid him $1.8 million. So they wanted to make sure that they tied him up. And I mean, so far it looks good, and they played it smart too, because instead of forcing him to try to play shortstop, they put him in a position where he'd be more comfortable, where they see him long term, so he doesn't have to worry about that positional change later on as he's still trying to develop. So it worked out great for them, essentially. So it's
perfect. Yeah. Well, let's run out the your top 10. I'm gonna go down the list here, and then have one of you guys, one of you each pick a player that you want to talk about. So Jorge Vera at number 6, number 7 Jared Kelly, 8 Brian Ramos, number 9 Micker Adolfo, and 10 Sean Burke. Mike, I want to start with you. Out of those guys, who sticks out to you the most? And it could be for a good reason or for a bad reason.
Well, I think everybody here, when the Sox drafted Jared Kelly, thought that was a steal too, and he's really not been very successful so far. Yeah. He had the shoulder and elbow trouble last year. He had an ERA over 7.5. Jack Carter's ERA was less than that last year, which is good. Jack's actually a really good pitcher. I just said that because he walked by. No, the thing is, I think that from what we're told, the profile there for him is, he was considered the best Texas high school pitcher since Jamison Tyone, and so Tyone's had a series of injuries and setbacks, but he's pretty good. So Kelly's a big dude. There's some quiet concerns over his conditioning from what we're told, but he's got a real plus fastball. And when he was coming out as a high school kid, the feel that he had for that changeup was really good. Now, if he can figure out the command and control issues, then they might have something a couple years down the road. They don't need him right now. His trade value doesn't seem to be very high, especially right now either, but he's a prospect that really intrigues me. I mean, we have a lot of stories of powered pitchers who struggle early on in their careers and develop into something good. So I remain really hopeful on him.
Good. Cristian, what about you? Who sticks out?
Going back to the White Sox and their affinity for Cuban players. Jorge Vera, right-handed pitcher, 21 years old. He's got an absolute power arm. I mean, his fastball sits around mid-90s. It's touched 96, 97. And he's still young. He's 6'4". He has a curveball in the upper 70s, a power curveball. And then he also has a slider as well that pairs pretty well off of it. And then he's trying to develop a splitter as well. So he's got a pretty good 3-pitch arsenal, almost 4. His issue right now is his ability or inability to really repeat his delivery. So he's having trouble with that. So it's causing some command issues. But walks are an issue, and that's his big issue right now. But if he's able to find that command, I mean, they gave him, I think it's $1.5 million signing bonus.
They're invested.
They're invested in him, but he's shown to be a power arm. And they're not in any rush, because if you look at the White Sox, the thing that they have going for them right now is that starting rotation. So especially with their arms, they're going to be able to take their time and really focus on developing them. I know one big thing that they introduced when they got their new pitching coach that Giolito did, Cease did it as well, Rodon did it this year. We saw it was that core velocity belt that they use for their starting pitchers to help them develop this year. And you saw what Rodon did this year, and you saw all the great stuff that Cease was able to do this year as well. And Giolito, of course, he's been able to continue to make his strides, but it's something that they're going to continue to use throughout their system, and it's proven to work. So yeah. I don't see why they won't use it with the rest of their guys.
You know who he reminds me of, Cristian? I don't know if you think this would be a good comp, but when I first saw him physically, I thought, oh my God, he looks like Jose Contreras.
He's the
same build,
he's a big body.
Contreras is a big man, And when he figured out what he was doing out there, he was their best pitcher on the 2005 team, right? So maybe, and I know that goes back a long way. I'm still living there, I know, but he reminds me physically of him, and I know that they had talked about Contreras working with him a little bit during the offseason on some of those things, because what you said was right on. The thing that we've been hearing here is that the repeatable motion, because of the size of his body, is really hard. He's a big dude, and we know the bigger guys have a tendency to struggle with that, you know.
Yeah, and that's why ultimately, I mean, I don't know if he sticks in the rotation long term, but if he doesn't stick in the rotation, I think he's going to be a very good option at the back of the pen. I mean, just with his, his arsenal that he's got, like I said, the power fastball that he's still developing. I mean, that'll play at the back of the bullpen, especially, and you can never have enough arms back there. And I mean, he can be a number 4, number 5. He'll definitely be. They have Ronaldo Lopez, kind of as their swing man right now.
No.
Kind of as their swing man right now. I mean, he'll develop into a better pitcher than Ronaldo Lopez for sure. So, I mean, it's a good option to have, especially like I said, they have the time to develop these guys and really just make sure they get the best out of them.
Yeah, I mean, for just overall for 2022, from the actual major league standpoint, I mean, they're ready. They're World Series ready. It's going to be an amazing year. Mike, I'm very jealous as a Tigers fan. You get to watch what I hope our team can be in 2-3 years.
Yeah, you guys are a year or two away, but it's going to be an exciting team to watch. And I don't wish the Tigers any ill will. I've always enjoyed watching them. They've had some of my favorite players over the course of time. I love it. But here's the thing that's going to happen. We talked about this for a half an hour, and like 3 of these guys are going to get traded to Arizona for Ketel Marte. Watch.
There you go. You heard it first.
No, I don't. The thing is, I don't know that they have good enough prospects to be able to pull off that kind of a heist.
That'll be something we'll be exploring.
From the major league level.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, Mike Carter, thank you so much for being our first guest here on the Call Up. You were absolutely amazing. Remind our listeners where they can find you on Twitter and plug anything you're working on.
Oh, geez. Well, I'm all over Twitter like a plague. I work for a couple of different websites, like you said at the beginning. My home base is really Roto Fanatic, or I work on bullpens for them during the season. That's going to be a nightmare coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I'm working. I also write more narrative pieces for 9 Inning Know It All, and I work at Fantrax I did their 2-pitcher starts last year, and I also work at SP Streamer for the one and only Michael Simeone. So I'm busy. I got a lot of things going on, but I really enjoy it. I'm so thrilled to be part of the community and to work with you guys and to finally get to meet Cristian, who I've been following for a while now, who does outstanding work. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. And Cristian.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. Remind our fans where they can find you.
Well, as always, you can find me on Twitter at @ccrest_26. Just doing my diligence and just pumping out the stuff you guys want to see, the stuff you guys want to hear. So if you want to know anything specific or, get any specific information, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help.
And he's not kidding. Like, Cristian he's one of the guys that takes the time out. He'll answer you, DM, whatever it is. He loves baseball. He loves prospects, and he's here to make all of us better. So thanks again for tuning in. As always, like, comment, subscribe here at the Triple Play Fantasy. And we'll see you next time as we continue on tackling the AL Central. Bye, guys.
Bye.